Welcome back, guys. This is the Sularium phase video where we're going to discuss Sularium, the second and most vital resource in the game of Battle for Sularia. We're going to talk about how Sularium functions and operates, and then we're going to talk about how we generate and make Sularium. So, what is Sularium? Sularium is a crystalline ore that the entire world survives off of. Without it, factions can't survive. And so therefore, every faction is vying for as much Sularium as they can possibly muster. And by doing so, they're going to be defeating their opponents to gain more Sularium. They're going to be controlling the world by taking out opponents' Sularium, raiding for it, etc. So in the case of the Jotun, where their society is starting to run out of Sularium, they're actually out looking for more. Okay, so now Watchtower is in play. We played that during the site phase. You saw that on the last video. I also went into how to make additional sites in future turns, things of that nature. But I now want to look at how we generate Sularium. So we hit our Sularium phase, and the first step of the Sularium phase is looking at the amount of Sularium we have on cards in play. So in the case of the Watchtower, we actually make 1 point of Sularium. So this is called Sularium generation. The 1 point goes to our Sularium pool, which I'm going to go ahead and put on our mat over here. And we also generate 1 Sularium for the remainder of this round. And I actually don't change my Sularium generation until I recalculate Sularium again. That's important because some effects are going to look at Sularium generation. For example, the Sod Saboteur from the Jotun says activate, which we talked about activate in the site video, which is basically we rotate the card 90 degrees, deal X damage to a maximum of 4 damage to target combatant or site. X is equal to half your Sularium generation this turn, rounding down. So what this means is that if I make 1 point of Sularium, the Sod Saboteur's ability is only worth 0 right now because it's 1 divided by 2 rounding down. However, even if I spend a point of Sularium, like let's say I go ahead and put out my Gray Harrier for 1 Sularium, and I have 0 Sularium remaining, I still generated 1 this turn. And because I generated 1 this turn, until my next Sularium phase, the Sod Saboteur's ability is worth 1 divided by 2 rounding down. Let's step forward a little bit and let's see if I make a little more Sularium, and by doing so, let's see if I can power that Sod Saboteur up a little bit more. So we'll say we're in the second turn of play, and I have a Sod Saboteur in my hand. My Gray Harrier is now out, and I'm going to go ahead and use a condition card that's going to make some more Sularium for me. It allows me to put a Sularium counter on a Watchtower, and it allows me to generate a point of Sularium from it, 2 points from the Watchtower, and 1 point from the shipyard. So I actually make 4 Sularium. I generate 4 Sularium. I have 4 Sularium now placed in my pool. That allows me to either play the Red Condor or the Sod Saboteur. If I play the Red Condor, let's just say the Saboteur was in play for the sake of this argument, I would now be able to use the Saboteur for 2 points of damage to a combatant or site on my opponent's board. Now, the Sod Saboteur actually doesn't specifically state combatant or site on your opponent controls, so I could actually even target my own sites or combatants with that. Not sure why we'd want to do that, but it is important to note. All right, so generation and Sularium pool are 2 very different things. I generated 4, I had 4 in my pool. I spent all 4 to play the Red Condor, but I still generated 4. Now, if a card says spend Sularium, let's talk about that for just a second. I'm going to grab the Scythian. For example, the Sularium Tactical Assault Beam, which is a 3-point tactic the Scythian have in their arsenal. I got to find it here. I apologize. I should have had it ready. The Sularium Tactical Assault Beam says spend X Sularium. For each point of Sularium spent, Sularium Tactical Assault Beam does 1 damage to target combatant, site, or opponent. If target combatant, site, or opponent is damaged by Sularium Tactical Assault Beam, diffuse that target's effects. Okay, so now, I don't want to get into that last line too much. We'll talk about diffusing and essentially countering in a later video, but I do want to talk about spending Sularium right now. So if I had 4 Sularium, and I spent all 4 of my Sularium on the Sularium Tactical Assault Beam, I would no longer have 4 Sularium for the Red Condor, which means I couldn't play the Red Condor. However, if I don't play the Red Condor and I keep that 4 Sularium, I keep 4 Sularium in my pool, as well as 4 Sularium generation, until my next Sularium phase. At the start of my next Sularium phase, I reset the pool to 0, but my generation remains 4 until I recalculate Sularium again. So it's important to understand that this pool of Sularium stays until your next Sularium phase. So you can use a Sularium Tactical Assault Beam, for example, on your opponent's turn, as long as you still have Sularium in your pool. That pretty much covers Sularium, most of the information regarding Sularium. If you have questions regarding this, please let us know in the comments below of this video, or go ahead and send us a note on Board Game Geek, send us a Twitter response. Any way you feel free to get a hold of us. We'll be happy to respond in any way we can and answer any questions you may have. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next video, which is going to be all about deploying combatants.